Episode 11 War. Strap on your seatbelts, demigods, it's time for a history lesson. For those of you who don't know, my name is Calyx Carter. I'm the daughter of the Greek goddess Athena, and I started making these podcasts because of a dream from her. Dreams for demigods are often visions, and sometimes those visions spark quests that spark wars. As a half-blood, you should know about the battles we've already faced, and hopefully they'll help out in the inevitable ones headed our way. The Trojan War. Most, if not all of you, are familiar with this, but for those who aren't, here's the story. This hero named Peleus, who had joined Hercules on an expedition to Troy and also sailed with Jason as one of the Argonauts, was tasked by Zeus and Poseidon to wed Thetis. There was a prophecy that Thetis, a Nereid, should she ever conceive, would give birth to a son who would become even greater than his father. Naturally, Zeus and Poseidon did not want that to happen to them, and decided to set her up with a mortal man. Anyway, they told Peleus the plan, and he, like an idiot, listened. Peleus bound Thetis quite forcefully. After sneaking up behind her, she was laying on the beach shore. He refused to let her go until finally she agreed to marry him. Match made in heaven, huh? Okay, wait. That was supposed to be rhetorical, but technically, because Zeus and Poseidon orchestrated the whole thing, it is a match made in heaven, which means that was a pun. Take that, Dad. Moving on. They held the wedding at Mount Pelion, where Chiron, my favorite horseman, used to live. All the gods and goddesses were invited to the ceremony, except for the goddess of discord, Eris. Not to be confused with the god of war, Ares, or the god of love, Eros. Anyway, she was all pissed, and in an act of revenge, threw a golden apple marked, "For the fairest," into the room in the middle of the wedding ceremony. Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite immediately moved to collect the fruit that was obviously meant for them, quarreling over it. Zeus didn't want anyone getting angry and starting anything big, like a war, so he enlisted the help of Hermes, the messenger god, to grab the first farmer he could find and forced him to judge the goddesses. Push comes to shove, Hermes finds Paris and tells him to pick the fairest of the three. All three offer him gifts, but Paris ultimately chooses Aphrodite, as she promises to give Helen of Troy to him, the most beautiful woman alive. This was the beginning of the rock slide that started the Trojan War. The Trojan War raged on for 10 years, the Greeks and Trojans on either side, demigods against demigods, and gods against gods, as well as mortals against mortals. You know who really gets a kick out of war? Ares, the god of war. And this wasn't his first or last war either. But the next notable one we're going to talk about is the Demigod Civil War, also known as the First Demigod Civil War. Way back in 1864, on Camp Half-Blood soil, raged a battle so fierce it lasted many days, a war between the Greeks and Romans. If you aren't familiar with this stuff, there's Camp Half-Blood for the Greeks and Camp Jupiter for the Romans. We peacefully coexist now, even getting together for annual events at each other's camps. But back then, the war mirrored that of the American Civil War, and Chiron, while discussing it, has told us that conflicts in the mortal world can carry over to the world of gods and demigods. There were heavy losses on both sides, and the bloodshed got so bad that the gods decided to separate the Romans and the Greeks, leading to the creation of the separate camps. It was said that the Romans fought hard for the Confederacy, and that the Greeks fought for the Union. There was no real declared winner in this war, which didn't sit well with some demigods. Much later than the First War, but not too distant from the present, there was a second demigod civil war, the last time we faced the Romans in a battle. Much like the first, there technically was no winner in this war. After many separate attacks, the Romans and Greeks made peace with each other, and the fighting ended. Now, you're probably asking what the heck this has to do with anything, right? Well, let me tell you about what's happening now. Among many other things going on at camp right now, there's a threat of a completely demigod-led revolution. They want to overthrow the gods, take the wheel, but don't have any support from another deity. That isn't slowing them down. Every day there's a few less demigods at camp, even though there aren't many of us here during the school year anyway. Every day, more demigods are following the lead of one demigod hell-bent on ruling the world. The gods might not always be there, but please, don't do something stupid. Don't start another war. Remember to watch your backs, take care of yourselves, and if you survive, I'll see you again next week. Calyx out.